Zoë Clark. I'm Senior Self-Management Programme Officer at NASS. I'm also a healthcare professional and I have AS myself as well. So these sessions are designed to give you a chance to chat with people about the condition, to hopefully learn some new things about helping you manage your condition. And it's a great chance for you to ask questions as well. So if you're joining, do say hi in the comments. I'll keep an eye on those as I go through today. Sometimes I'm joined by guests, but today I'm running a session all about exercising during flare-ups. Hopefully I have some really helpful practical tips, but as always, it's really great to hear your experiences as well. So do pop those in the comments. It'd be lovely to hear any tips that you have for each other about how you stay active when you're in a flare-up, because it can be a really difficult time. So I'll just bring the live stream up. Wonderful. So yeah, do say hi if you're joining. And what I'll do today is I'm going to start with a very brief presentation. I've just got a few slides just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, and I'll go through a simple exercise series of seated exercises that you can join in with, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for any questions. So do pop those in the comments as I go through. So I'm just going to double check that I am live streaming. It currently looks like I'm live streaming twice, so apologies if anyone's having difficulty seeing this. But yeah, I think we're good. Wonderful. So to get started, what I'll do is I'll start sharing my slides first of all. But as I said, during these, do feel free to pop any questions in the comments, and I'll make sure that I answer them towards the end of the session. So as I said, today's session is all about exercising during a flare-up. It is quite a big topic, and it's something that quite often it's good to get individual advice on. So today I'll give some good general advice and some practical tips, but it's always worth getting in contact with your rheumatology team, or also you can chat to me on the helpline if you have any more specific questions. So firstly, the benefits of exercise. We know that exercise is really good for axial SpA for a number of different reasons. So it can be really helpful in terms of managing the pain associated with your condition, but also it's really good at helping maintain our mobility and our ranges of movement as well, not only in the spine, but in the rest of the joints in the body too. And of course, regardless of axial SpA, being active is really good for our general fitness, our general health, and also for our mood as well. Exercise is really good at getting those endorphins, those happy hormones going, and helping boost our mood as well. So it's really helpful for a number of different reasons. But we do know that during a flare-up, it can be a huge challenge to be active and to do some exercise as well. So there are a number of different reasons that flares can make this difficult. So your pain levels in particular can be really tricky in terms of getting active through that pain. And lots of people with axial SpA experience really severe fatigue, particularly during a flare-up, but sometimes outside of a flare-up as well. And if you've got those low energy levels and you're feeling that extreme exhaustion, it can be really difficult to do exercise or to be more active. And of course, if you've got any reduced mobility or any joint stiffness, that can have a really big impact on the movements and the activities that you're able to do. And it's really important to recognise that a flare-up can be just a very local area that's flaring, for example, like a particular joint or a particular area like the heel where the muscle attaches onto the bone can get inflamed. But you can also have very widespread symptoms as well. And those widespread symptoms can come alongside that fatigue that I mentioned. And naturally, during a flare-up, when we do have a lot of pain and a lot of fatigue, our priority does tend to be work and other commitments like family commitments and things around the house. So it's not uncommon that then our activity levels and our usual exercises tend to get pushed down the priority list. So it's really easy to prioritize other areas over this. So hopefully today I'll have some really practical tips to help make this a little bit easier, so that next time you're flaring, you've got a few more tools in your toolbox to help with that. As I mentioned at the beginning, speaking to your rheumatology physiotherapist can be really helpful to give that personal, individualized advice. So I'll share some very general advice, but if you are finding that you're struggling with a particular area or a particular issue, or if you try the advice that we've shared today and it's not helped, then do speak to your rheumatology team for that more personalised advice. And although I've called the talk today exercising during a flare, it can be really helpful to not think just solely of exercise and an exercise session or particular stretches or activities, but actually thinking of exercise, particularly during a flare-up, as just being active and moving, and just think of it as activity and movement. So even when you're just walking, doing jobs around the house, getting up to make a cup of tea, that's still movement, that's still activity. And actually during a flare-up, doing those things can be just as beneficial and much easier to do than sitting and doing specific exercises, particularly if you're experiencing fatigue as well. So do think of it as a whole and think of your overall activities through the day and just make sure you get that balance there. And thinking of it like that can sometimes take the pressure off us a little bit as well. When we're in a lot of pain and really fatigued, sometimes it can feel quite overwhelming, and we can almost beat ourselves up about it if we do less than we feel we should be doing. But actually, when you look at all the activity you do through the day, it can really build up over time. Now, when we're looking at being active during a flare, do think of it as consistency rather than intensity. It's really helpful to look at your activity and break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks and make sure that you put those rest breaks in frequently. I've put the spoon image up there just as a little reminder of the spoon theory. So particularly with fatigue, it's a really great analogy to help explain the impact that fatigue has on us. So essentially, we only have so much energy during the day, and we do find that during flare-ups, if your fatigue is flaring up as well, you're going to have less energy. And it's really important just to pace that energy, put in those rest breaks through the day so that you're still able to keep moving, keep active, but you're not having as much of an impact on your fatigue levels. And as you go through a flare as well, if you do find any particular movements, activities or exercises are helpful, then just keep a note of them so that then next time you're in a flare, you've got something to go back to, and there may well be something there that you'd forgotten about that is going to help you get through the flare a little bit more comfortably and help you get out of the other side a little bit quicker. We do find that generally most people find that during a flare-up they want to avoid high impact exercise and go with less impactful exercise. So it's well worth just looking at your usual activities and seeing if you want to adjust those during a flare. And so we've got quite a few people joining us. So if you have joined partway through, feel free to pop any questions in the comments box. And also do share your experiences as well. If you've got any top tips of what helps you keep moving during a flare-up, we'd love to hear them. So when we're talking about getting moving during a flare, it can be really helpful to think of movement differently and think of using your body differently as well. So trying different positions, for example, seated exercises rather than standing, particularly if you've got hip, knee or ankle pain, and exercises where you're lying down can be really helpful and just help you work with your body in a different way to usual, help protect it, but still getting moving and getting those stretches going. So I'm going to demonstrate a few just gentle seated spinal exercises that can be really good when you are in a flare-up, because you can be really gentle with them, do very small movements, and you can do these little and often. It's the last thing we want to do when we're flaring is do just one set of exercises or one set of activity and then sit down for the rest of the day resting because of our fatigue. We find that the longer you're resting for, the more that stiffness and pain will build up. So actually having a few exercises you can do while you're sitting and resting, so you're able to spread them out gradually through the day, is going to stop that stiffness building up, and it's going to make it a lot easier to keep moving and to manage those pain levels. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate these exercises, and you're welcome to join in as we go through. If you are in a flare-up at the moment, you may well want to watch the exercises, and then you can always come back after the live is finished, and you can do them nice and slowly in your own time, because you can watch one exercise, pause, try it, and just do it in your own time. So just take it nice and gently and just be kind to yourself. So I'm just going to move my chair back a little bit so I hope you can see me. And in fact, I'm going to stop sharing the slides for this bit because that should be a little bit easier to see what I'm doing then. So with these exercises, as I said, they should all be really comfortable and gentle. So we're going to start just with some gentle neck exercises. So I'm just going to bring the chin down towards the chest as far as comfortable. And then if it feels good to you, you can take your head over to the left side and feel a little bit of a stretch through the neck into the shoulder, and over to the right. And back to the center and bring it up. Now we're going to do some head tilts. So we're going to bring the left ear over to the left shoulder, just as far as comfortable. Doesn't matter how far you go, just nice and gently. And to make that stronger, you can take your left hand, relax it off your chair, and just tilt your body down to bring the hand towards the floor. So Feeling that movement, that stretch all the way along the spine and the ribs. And come back up. Do the same to the right, so right ear to right shoulder, just as far as comfortable. And then take the right hand down towards the floor, just side bending, keeping your hips in the chair. And come back up. Good. Now we're going to do some rotations, and it's really common that you'll find that going in one direction is easier than the other, or you can get further one way than the other. That's absolutely fine. Just listen to your body and go as far as feels comfortable for each side. So we're going to start with going to the right side. So you're just going to look to the right side, and then just follow that movement round with your shoulders. Again, keeping your hips nice and firm on the seat. Just twisting with your body. And back to the centre. And then we're going to go to the left side. And then follow the movement with your shoulders as far as comfortable. And back to the centre. Now we're going to do that again. I'm going to show a variation where you can make it a little bit stronger if you need to. So again, looking to the right side and twisting with the body. And if you want to make that stronger, at the end of this movement here, you can take your left hand onto your right knee. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, use that left hand as leverage to get a little bit further around. Hold it there for a couple of breaths. And then come back to the center. And again, we're going to go to the left side. So looking over the left shoulder, twist the body around. And if you'd like to make that stronger again, right hand onto the left knee. Deep breath in. And breathe out and just pull slightly further. So I can definitely get a little bit further on the right side. This side's definitely tighter. That's completely normal. And back to the center. Good. Hopefully that was a nice gentle stretch through the ribs. If you find you get a lot of rib pain and rib flares, then sometimes that twisting can be a bit provocative. So do just take it nice and gently with that one. Now we're going to do a few movements to get our back arching and slumping a little bit. So it can be helpful to have your hands behind your neck, so you can interlink your fingers behind your neck. Or if you can't reach that far, you can pop your hands on your shoulders and use this, or you can relax the arms down, wherever's most comfortable. So I'm going to pop my hands behind my head, and we're just firstly going to look down towards the floor, bring our elbows together and slump down in the chair. And then we're going to take a deep breath in as we do the opposite. So we're going to look up towards the ceiling, take our elbows out, and arch our back backwards. And just repeat that a couple of times in your own time. So elbows in, looking down, slumping down, like cat stretch. And then looking up towards the ceiling, arch backwards. But you're seated, so you're protecting the hips and your knees and your ankles. You're getting your back moving, you're opening out the shoulders, stretching the ribs. It can be a really nice one, particularly if you sit at a desk a lot of the time. And relax down. So just do a few shoulder rolls just to loosen up if you had your hands above your head then. Do the other way. Perfect. And then the final one, again, we're going to interlink the fingers behind the neck if that's comfortable. Again, you can pop your hands on the shoulders if that's better. But if you can put them like so, and if you can bring your elbows towards each other just as far as comfortable, and imagine that your elbows are a pointer, and you're going to try and draw the figure of 8 in the sky by moving your back as much as you can. So we're going to go up, turning the back, and then come down, slumping. Let's do as big as we can, the number 8. If you can just do a little 8, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter, just listening to your body, seeing what your body wants to do, and going the other way as well, which always slightly confuses me. Good, and relax. If you joined in with those live, then do let me know in the comments how things feel. Hopefully it's feeling a little bit looser. And as I said, just take it nice and gently. And if you want to revisit those at any time, you can do after the recording. You can come back and watch any time. And if there's even just one of those that you find is helpful, it may all just be something you can do during a flare-up and while you're resting that keeps your back moving, keeps that mobility going, stops that stiffness from building up as well, and just helps manage your pain and makes it a little bit easier, hopefully. So yeah, do let me know in the comments how you found that. Lorraine shared, yeah, her problem area is the sideways movement, pain in her lower back rising up her spine and back down her legs, with added pain and stiffness due to fibromyalgia. Absolutely, yeah. If you've got other things going on, particularly fibromyalgia, where you get a lot of pain in the muscles as well, then yeah, it can sort of add a layer to that too. I am shortly going to be going through a little bit in terms of managing the pain, which then helps you be more active. So I hope you'll have some tips that will be helpful with that for you, Lorraine. Yeah, it is good to move like that, but yeah, I'm same as Helen, a few clicks as well. And if they're painless clicks, that's absolutely fine. If it's sore or anything, then do take it a bit more easily. But yeah, definitely my fusions in my pelvis has not moved up just yet. So yeah, I've still got that at the moment, but yeah, hopefully keep it that way, but who knows. So what I'll do is I'll share the slides again and just move on to a little bit about flares too. Bear with me. So along the same theme of moving differently, I was talking a little bit more about sort of generalized flares and how to do more gentle movements and activity through those flares. But sometimes it can be a little bit easier when you've got more localized flares and thinking of movements that don't affect that area. So for example, if you have pain in your hip, knee, or your ankle, then doing movements where you're seated to protect those can be really helpful. Similarly, if you've got pain in the neck or the back or the shoulders, doing exercises that when you're lying down can be really helpful because then you can relax and rest those areas. On our website, we have some stretches. One particular stretch called the 6 p.m. stretch is a really lovely one where it's a video of someone doing the stretches on their bed. So you've got a really soft, comfortable surface to lie on, and it's good kind of general full body stretch. But that can be a really nice one to do, particularly sort of in the evening, try and loosen things up before heading to bed. That can be a really nice one to try. So I'll pop the link to that in the comments after the live as well. And also in terms of localized exercises, then breathing exercises can be really good, particularly if you get a lot of stiffness in your ribs and in your mid-back, then breathing exercises can actually get that area moving, but without having any kind of added stress or impact on the rest of your body. So I'll share a couple of my favorite ones and I'll lead you through them because I think they can be really helpful for that, but also in terms of managing sort of stress during a flare-up. I think I probably don't need to explain to everyone watching, but it can be incredibly stressful when you're going through a flare, when you're dealing with that pain, that fatigue, and particularly if you've had to cancel plans, events, or not doing as much as you want to be able to do. It can be really, really stressful and can have a really big impact on our mental health. And some people find that breathing exercises are a really good relaxation technique and almost like a mindfulness technique that help just give you that little bit of time out during that flare, and it can help just reduce the impact that stress can have on the body as well. So I'm going to talk you through this and I'll leave the slide up just because I don't think you need to see me too much for this one. But we're going to start with some diaphragm breathing. So we're going to place one hand on our chest bone, on our sternum, and the other hand on our belly, so a little bit higher. And what we'll do is just for a few breaths, just sit there and just notice how deep you're breathing. If one hand is moving more than the other, try and relax your shoulders down. What we tend to find is that we tend to move the top hand more, so we tend to take shallow breaths where we're moving that top hand more, and we want to aim to move the bottom hand over the belly a little bit more. So essentially when you take deeper breaths, you're going to move that belly hand. So we're going to try and do that now together. So on your next in-breath, try and take a really nice deep breath so it goes right down into your belly and pushes that belly hand out. And then as you breathe out, try and draw that belly in, tensing your stomach muscles to really push that air out. And you can feel that hand move in towards your spine. And do a few of those in your own time, breathing in. Keep the shoulders down and relaxed. And breathing out. Good, and relax your arms down. And it often takes a lot of practice to get used to that movement, and particularly if you've got fusion in your ribs, it can be a little bit more difficult to do. But if you have stiffness in the area, sometimes you find that as you do that over time, it helps increase the mobility in your ribs, and that helps loosen up your back in turn as well. So it's well worth practicing that one over a longer period of time. And then the second breathing exercise I'll show you is called box breathing, and it's where we're going to count the breaths. So this one, particularly if you're feeling stressed or anxious, it's a really lovely one to do because you're really focusing on your breathing and on those counts, and it helps just take your mind off the pain and other things going on. So just have your hands down on your knee, nice and relaxed, and make sure you're sat nice and upright. Have something supporting your back if you need to as well, so you can be nice and relaxed. And I'm going to count you through. We're going to take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, hold the breath in for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold that out breath for 4. So when you're ready, we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, breathing out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Last time, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and relax. Just breathe nice and naturally again. And do let me know in the comments how you found that one. Sometimes it can be difficult to get used to. When you're doing it yourself as well, obviously you can count as quickly or as slowly as you need to. So depending on how deep a breath you want to take or how long you want to hold for. But try and keep those counts for each section the same, so that you're doing 4 all the way around and in the same sort of speed. It'd be really nice to see how you all found that, and hopefully that was a nice stretch through the ribs, but also quite relaxing as well. So finally, in terms of moving differently, I imagine lots of people watching are going to agree with me that exercising and being active in water can be really, really soothing, particularly with aquatic physiotherapy or hydrotherapy, where you've got the warm water. That can be really nice on any sore muscles, on any sore joints. But even just walking in water can be really beneficial, because it means that you can get moving, you can get the muscles moving and working, so you're strengthening the muscles. You can help get the joints moving and loosen any stiffness through there, but you've got the weightlessness in the water, so it just gives you that support. I've just seen Lorraine's share, just feeling a bit dizzy. Okay, definitely take a seat and yeah, just get your breath back. It might have been if you're breathing too quickly or too slowly, so just take it easy and that should settle. Yeah, when you practice in your own time, you can always adjust the timings for that as well. Okay. As I said, in terms of managing pain, so we have had a whole session by a specialist nurse, Colin Beaver, all about managing your pain. He's spoken about non-medication pain relief as well as medication. So I'll pop a link to that in the video comments as well after the session. But it is really important to look at the ways that you're managing your pain during a flare-up, and speaking to your healthcare team to make sure you know the type of medication and the timings that you can go to if you need to, but also the kind of non-medication pain relief that you find helpful as well. In terms of helping you be more active, using pain relief before or after activity so it makes it more comfortable can make it a lot easier to get moving. But it's really important not to mask the pain too much, because obviously you need to be able to feel what's going on in your body and just make sure that you're pacing things enough and you're not overdoing things and perhaps exacerbating the pain for a short period of time afterwards. So it's well worth just taking sort of a look at the things you usually use, and if there's a way you can step those up when you need them. But also using localized pain relief, so something like an anti-inflammatory gel, if that's okay for you, using hot or cold on the area, I would say probably about 90% of people with axial SpA swear by heat rather than ice, but it's well worth trying either and just seeing which one works best for you. And also TENS machines as well. Quite often we can forget about TENS machines, but they can be incredibly helpful at giving you that localized pain relief, which then means you can be a little bit more active, and that helps them reduce the pain and stiffness you're experiencing. And all of these, it can be really helpful to just write those down, anything that you find is useful for managing your pain, so that during a flare-up you can go to that list, you can see exactly what's available to help you, because it's so easy for us when we're experiencing a lot of pain, fatigue, and perhaps brain fog as well. You can forget some of the most simple things that help, even things like taking your anti-inflammatory in the morning, or whenever you take it. It's so easy to forget those when you're struggling. So having it written down can be really helpful. And I've already mentioned it as well, the importance of listening to your body. It really is important all the time, especially with axial SpA, but especially when you're experiencing a flare-up. And don't feel pressured to be doing more and to be doing lots. Just really listen to your body and do what it feels like it needs at that time. And as I said, just pacing things so that you're doing little bits of activity frequently and you've got that consistency, rather than pushing out yourself to do a really intense form of exercise or activity, and then finding that aggravates things and makes things more difficult to manage. And in terms of any aches or pains after activity, mild aches are perfectly normal. That's absolutely fine. If you find that it's really aggravating your pain, then do reduce the intensity a little bit as well. And along the theme of working with your body, do think about the time of day that is best for you to be active. A lot of people with axial SpA find that mornings is the worst time, because when you've been still through the night, you've got a lot of joint stiffness and a lot of pain. And also, if you've not had any medication through the night, then sometimes it can take a little while for any pain relief to kick in as well. So some people find that actually getting up in the morning, having a hot shower or a hot bath, and just gently pottering around the house to loosen up, then it becomes more of the time when you can be a little bit more active once you've got rid of that initial stiffness after 30 minutes to a few hours for some people. And considering mobility aids and joint supports is really important. I think it's an area that's been quite overlooked, and it's something that in our last Facebook Live we spoke about. Again, with Colin Beaver, he shared his advice on aids around the house and also mobility aids. But it's well worth looking into things to see if there's some devices out there that can make your activities of daily living a little bit easier to help take the strain off. For example, when I'm out and about, most of the time I use a walking stick now, because I found that actually having that stick just takes a little bit of pressure off my hips and my lower back, and it helps reduce the pain and fatigue that I experience, which actually has helped me be more active now. So I'm walking more, and overall that's going to help my axial SpA and my general fitness over time. So I found that actually, biting the bullet and getting something like that has been really beneficial for managing my axial SpA. I know lots of people worry that you'll then become reliant on things, but there are so many things out there to help make life with axial SpA easier. I think it's well worth exploring them and see if there's anything out there that will help you. And of course, friends and family can be really helpful in terms of providing support and also motivation as well. So getting friends and family to join you with your activities, or going out for a walk, can be a really nice way to help take your mind off the pain and stiffness as you're doing that activity. And of course, finding something enjoyable, it's so much easier to get moving if it's going to be something we enjoy. You may have seen, a few days ago, we shared the Bristol NASS branch, their activities for the month, because they are running all their activities online. And I'm really looking forward to trying something new on Saturday and joining their seated Zumba class. So I think, having something enjoyable is going to help with getting more active as well. And of course, gradually building up your activity. So particularly if you're doing something new, or if you're in the middle of a flare-up and then you feel things starting to ease, just gradually building your activity up over time can be really helpful. Sometimes it's easy to want to jump back into our usual routine or usual activity, but actually it's really important to build that up slowly so that you don't find that then your pain and fatigue flare up again. And long term, it can be really helpful to monitor your flares, not only in terms of finding things that help for you, but also the time that we have between medical appointments can be quite long. So actually keeping a record of those flare-ups means that when you have your appointment, it's really easy to look back and see how you've been coping and see if there's any areas that you need help with. So if you are keeping a flare diary, some people do this by hand, just in a notebook or in a written diary. or you can use apps such as the MySpa app as well. But just keeping a note of when the flare happens and the exact impact it's having on you, making sure that you write down how long it's lasted, and also identifying any possible triggers, although we all know that sometimes these flares can happen for no reason whatsoever, which can be frustrating, but that can be really helpful to note as well. And again, recording what helps you, so then you can look back over time and see if there's a pattern to things that are particularly helpful. So it just makes that future flare that little bit easier to manage. And of course, do speak to your healthcare team if you find that your flares are getting more severe, or if they're getting more frequent, or if you're just struggling to manage them generally. So do speak to your healthcare team for that specific advice. And we do have lots of more resources on flares on the My NASS My Life webpage, which again, I'll put the link in the video description, and also in our guide to flares as well, which is available on the website. So we do have lots of resources available there, but hopefully this has given you some practical tips that you can bring into your routine and hopefully make those flare-ups a little bit more manageable. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'll stop sharing my slides there, and I'm more than happy to take any questions that have come in. As I said earlier, please feel free to share your experiences as well. I'm just going to check the questions and comments through there. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope it's been helpful. And we had a question before the live session from Jeff asking about if there's any sort of research evidence on exercising during a flare-up. And I'm afraid there isn't a huge amount of evidence at the moment. The research mainly is focusing on what causes a flare-up, how people define a flare-up, because that's very different to different people. And it's looking at it in a more broad term like that. We haven't got a huge amount of research on exercising during a flare. But certainly from what we do know, particularly if you're getting a lot of pain in terms of where the muscles attach onto the bone. So a lot of people with axial SpA get the inflammation. It's called enthesitis. It's really common in the heel and the knee and the shoulder, sometimes in the elbow, like tennis elbow or golfer's elbow. But essentially in these areas, you get inflammation where the muscle attaches onto the bone. And what we don't want to do is lots of high intensity exercise, really stressing that area, because sometimes that can irritate that inflammation. But in terms of research, there isn't a huge amount out there, but we will definitely be sharing whatever research does come out. And I know there's a few things going on in terms of sort of looking at flare-ups and using apps and things like that to help track that too. So yeah, again, we'll share that as soon as we can tell you all a little bit more. And so Steve's commented, been listening rather than joining in while driving to work. So thanks as ever. Been trying to walk between my tram pickup points for Walk My AS Off. That's a really good idea, sort of just putting in little bits of movement like that rather than necessarily going for one really big walk, just adding in a little bit more. If anybody's not heard of Walk My AS Off, it's a it's kind of like a step challenge throughout the month of May that Walkers One organise. And essentially, just they ask you to track your steps, so using a pedometer or a smartwatch, track your steps throughout the month and record them on the website. And it's all about raising awareness of axial SpA. And we've got some information, sharing lots of posts from people as well. We're loving all the pictures coming in of all your walks, because it's a really good way of raising awareness of the condition and also raising funds for NASS if anyone's able to do that. But also it's really helpful because they have on the website a way that you can actually change different things like chores into steps. So for example, if you've been doing gardening or cleaning, things like that, there's a way that you can convert that into steps. So it's not necessarily about going for really long walks if you're not able to do that. Even pottering around the house, it all counts. And it's just raising awareness and also just building that community as well. It's really nice when you see scroll through social media and you see lots of people who know what axial SpA is and they're there with you as well. It's really nice. And Lorraine has shared, not a question, but something I do for myself, mood-wise. Make sure I have a small treat and something to relax with, like a book or Netflix. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Lorraine. Absolutely. I think it's really important to make sure that we are doing things to look after ourselves and promote that relaxation as well. And that's after a chore or task or outdoors. And that's brilliant. Yeah, as much as I say, kind of, put in rest breaks, it doesn't necessarily have to be, having a nap or sitting and completely resting. Things like that, where you're reading, they're restful activities, but they can count as rest breaks and help you pace your activity really nicely. Plus, there's a little reward as well. If you sort of feel like you've pushed through to get something done, it's nice to think, oh, great, I can sit and watch some Netflix. And Patrul has shared, thank you, Zoe, for these sessions. I personally find Tibetan emptiness yoga helps bring down the pain levels. I've not heard of that before. I'm going to look that up afterwards. Thank you for sharing that. It's always great to hear new things that people find helpful. I know a lot of people find yoga really helpful, and we've had some sessions from Yoga for AS for the guys there, all about different things. So yeah, do have a look back on our previous live sessions for some taster sessions from them. And I've seen Helen's asked, this is all new to me, so forgive the question. Oh, any questions are allowed, don't worry. If it's something I don't know the answer to, then I can always research it and come back to you anyway. So how long would a flare usually last for? Is there a usual time, or is this dependent on medicine, exercise, etc.? Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. So particularly in the beginning stages of axial SpA, or if someone's only recently been diagnosed, it can actually be difficult to understand what a flare is, because if you've got those overall levels of general inflammation in your body, and you've got those consistent levels of pain and fatigue and stiffness, some people don't actually experience flare-ups because it is just consistently flared, essentially. But many people find that then once they're taking medication or they're doing more regular activity, different things that help manage the condition, they find they get periods where the symptoms are less pronounced, and then they get these flare-ups where things are set off for a period of time. And unfortunately, the length of time for flare-ups really does vary based on the person, based on what's set that particular flare-up off, by. And just yeah, it completely varies for each person and each flare, unfortunately. Some people do find that they get a particular pattern, and some people also find that they can start noticing almost like warning signs for a flare-up, but then they can adjust their activity and maybe to take specific medications like anti-inflammatories to help reduce the intensity and the length of that flare as well. But it is very variable. And there are so many different things that can trigger flare-ups as well. And as I mentioned in the session, sometimes there's no trigger whatsoever. You can do all the right things and you still get a flare. So I think that's right. It's really important just being kind to yourself, and when a flare starts happening, just making sure you're doing all the things that are going to support you through that, and just taking each day as it comes as well. Just knowing, just focus on each day, and it will get easier. It will pass. And just doing all those self-care things that are going to help with that. I'll pop a link in the video description to a previous session I've done on creating a flare toolkit, because it's a place that you can go to where it's got all the different things that could potentially help, and it's just a really good way of making sure that you've got all those things to hand during a flare. Let's have a look. Any other questions? And Lorraine says, I try to do things very regularly to train my mind, body, and can slip into autopilot. Yeah, lots of people find that, where if you have particular routines with things like, going to bed at the same time each evening and getting up at the same time each day, and then having a particular routine with through your day, actually that can make things a little bit easier, and especially in terms of managing energy levels as well. That can be really helpful. Thanks for sharing that. And Patrul's shared a little bit more about Tibetan emptiness yoga. So it's so it sounds a bit more like a mindfulness practice rather than like a physical yoga practice. So it's mental and spiritual yoga. Oh, I'll definitely be looking into giving that a try. Oh, and really good tip as well from Lorraine, saying she prepares everything for the morning, the evening before. So water in the kettle, bread next to the toaster, clothes hung ready, handbag sorted, etc. That's brilliant. It's a bit like writing out your to-do list. So you're mentally ready, but you've actually done the physical things. So it takes the pressure off, particularly if you find that the mornings are the worst time. That sounds brilliant. Sets yourself up perfectly. Oh, I'm loving all the tips coming in. Thank you, everyone. Please do pop any other questions or tips in there. We'll see how much longer we go for. Just, I'm aware it's probably coming towards the end of people's lunch times and lunch breaks, so I'll finish up shortly. While I'm waiting just for any other comments or questions to come in, I'll just let you know that our next session is going to be on Wednesday next week at 1 p.m. and I'll be joined by Ian Young, and he is a somatic movement teacher, so he's going to lead a session focusing on the hips and the ankles, doing gentle somatic movement exercises to help loosen these areas. And he's done previous sessions on the neck, the shoulders and the back. So do have a look at his previous sessions beforehand to have a taster session, and hopefully you'll join us for that. And as always, I'll pop as well, we're looking for your feedback and your ideas for future Facebook Lives. We'd love to shape this programme around what you'd like to see. So I'll pop a link to a really brief survey in the video description. So please do take just a couple of minutes if you can to share your feedback and give us your ideas for any future sessions as well, so we can get those in the diary. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining. It's been fantastic to hear your experiences, and I'll keep an eye on the comments over the next few days as well. If there are any other questions that pop up, then I'll be able to answer those, or do feel free to email me directly, zoe@nass.co.uk, or I've put the helpline details in the video description as well. So between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday to Friday, myself and colleagues are around for a chat and to give advice as well. So please feel free to give us a call anytime. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for sharing all your experiences, including Lorraine. Thank you, and yeah, hopefully see you all next week, and I'll be joined by Ian. I'll have a much easier job just handing over to him and joining in the exercises myself. Take care everyone, and see you next time.